Howdy, it is I, Junk, back with an update on the no-spend March/drone compensation situation with War Robots. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll link the original video on this topic in the corner in the card there, so click that if you want to see the backstory. Let's just get right into what the update is. This dropped this morning. I didn't get to it till the afternoon because I actually work for a living. Okay, so we'd like to thank you for your thoughtful input on the drone overhaul, they say. Oh, I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. And let me just say, Pixonic, right back at you, buddy. I'd like to thank you for your thoughtful comments too. I'd like to thank you really a lot. After thoroughly inspecting ongoing discussions on Reddit, Discord, YouTube, hey, that's us, that's all of us, and other platforms, we're adjusting the compensation rules. Okay, they have got 3 buff icons here. Let's talk about whether these are buffs. First, 5,000 microchip cap is removed. That's just plain old good. The reason why people described this change as stealing was because, I mean, it's 2 reasons, but one of the main reasons they described it as stealing was if you were the type of player who had more than 50 gold microchips, you just got none of the new currency at that point. They just took them away. Well, that's just stealing. So they've gotten rid of that. That is straight up good. Thank you, Pixonic, for listening on that. That's a great start. Buff number 2, they say the following drones are moved to Tier 4. Glider, Beak, Armadillo, Paralysis, Barrel, and Reviver. Now, I don't know what they're talking about move to Tier 4 about, because the last I saw, Barrel and Reviver were at Tier 4 on their list, and the abilities were terrible on Barrel. I don't remember Reviver. But, so, the following drones aren't moved to Tier 4. The following drones that are moved to Tier 4 are the first 4. Glider, Beak, Armadillo, and Paralysis. This is actually not a buff. This is more like a... half a loaf, I guess. Here's the issue. A Tier 3 drone under the new system is going to require 750 microchips to upgrade. A Tier 4 drone under the new system is going to require 1,000 microchips and an upgrade token. The problem, as you can see, is that most players in this last meta were using Glider, Beak, Armadillo, or Paralysis, which means that they could have upgraded those drones for just microchips and fewer of them before, and now they need the upgrade tokens. So, I mean, it's good and it's bad. The good aspect is, hypothetically, in theory, people were going to hold off on upgrading them because they wanted to save the resources because there would be Tier 4 drones that would be better. And now these are Tier 4 drones, so they're gold tier drones. I think the problem is, one of the other unaddressed concerns that the players have here is the nerf buff cycle and the stealth nerfs and stealth buffs. We all know what's going to happen. We all know Pixonic is going to release new drones that have 4 much better abilities than any of the existing drones that might even frustrate their abilities. So, on the one hand, moving them to Tier 4, you know, makes it so that they might have more longevity, or they might be less outshined by those new drones. On the other hand, it makes the compensation, the overall compensation, more inadequate. So, the third buff, quote-unquote, in addition to the previously announced compensation, all players above level 27 will be able to claim the following items for free. 1,000 microchips, 1 upgrade token, and a barrel drone. Well, that is a buff. Free stuff is always just good. But let's still do the math. Before, under the old system, 7 max drones would give you 2,800 of the new currency, which would upgrade 2.8, not quite 3, of your 5 drones that you'd be able to deploy with your hangar. Giving you 1,000 free microchips on top of that takes you to 3.8. Well, that still isn't 5,000. If it's going to take, assuming you have the most likely meta drones to have, Glider, Beak, Armadillo, and Paralysis, if it's going to take 5,000 and 5 upgrade chips to get a max drone hangar like you had when they took them away, and what they give you back is a grand total 3,800 and 1 upgrade token, then the compensation is still inadequate. It's less inadequate. They're stealing from you slightly less. But if somebody's stealing from you, and you tell them, hey, I don't want you stealing from me, and they offer to give you back half of what they took, they're still stealing from you. Does this actually address the problems with the drone overhaul? It makes it hurt less, but it doesn't fix it. You know, would I say that Pixonic is still stealing? I mean, yeah, just slower and less directly. But let's also remember, looking back here at what players are asking for. Fair compensation for drone chips, I'd say I'm going to give them a D+, maybe a C- on that, on a grading scale. And 5 more issues that have not been addressed at all in this post. And this is where, if you're the cynical sort, you might look at what Pixonic did here and say, they know it's inadequate, and they're only doing it in order to divide the community. Am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know. Tell me down below. But it does present us all with the $64,000 question, do we still do no-spend March? Well, I'm not driving this bus, right? Like, I'm not a clan leader, let alone, like, on the clan leader Discord and in charge of these things. I can tell you what my feeling is. And what my feeling was in the last video, and it kind of is the same. One of the issues leading up to this was not everybody sees no spend in the same way. Not everybody understands no spend to mean the same thing. Like, can I spend in-game currencies? And what I said then is kind of where I'm at now, which is you should do what makes sense to you in the way that makes sense to you, and that it doesn't matter if we don't all do the exact same thing. Looking at this, and looking at Pixonic's unwillingness to address the other concerns on the list, my personal feeling is I'm still going to not spend. I don't know if there's going to be an official decision about this, but to me, the refusal to address most of what was in that list in any substantive way tells me a lot more than the things Pixonic did say. Like, this is a weird analogy, but it's almost like getting married to someone, and you go through the traditional vows, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, and then it's their turn, and they come back and say to have and to hold in health. And it's like, I don't have a problem with what you said, but I got a real problem with something you didn't say. So that's where my head is at right now. Now, I'm going to keep listening to what other people are saying. Please let me know in the comments where your head is at. I'm going to stay on the Discords and hear kind of what the community is saying. Right now, all I can tell you is what my feelings are, which is, one, I don't think this is good. It's a positive change, too. I don't think it quite addresses all the concerns. And more to the point, this plus choosing not to address the other concerns makes me think Pixonic isn't really serious here, and they're just trying to divide the community. So, right now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still not going to spend, but I'm going to listen to hear what other people are doing and where their heads are at. And again, do what makes sense to you. Don't do something because, junk told you to. Don't do something because a bunch of clans told you to. Think about your relationship to Pixonic and how they've treated you. Think about how you feel about them as a company and the things that they've done. And decide what makes sense to you. Because I'm not doing this because 100 clans are doing it. I'm doing this because I know about my relationship to Pixonic. And I know what this means when they say this to me, and that this doesn't really get at my concerns. Alright. I'm going to switch this to some gameplay that I recorded just before making this video. I wanted to make sure I had something worth looking at before I did. So we're going to jump over there, and I'll be back with you in one moment. Alright, and we're here on Castle Beak and Rush. I'm recording this audio after I recorded the intro, but I played the game before, so I'm not playing, which is hopefully it'll let me actually face the mic. First thing I do, and that a lot of champion players do when they drop in, is they try to read the clan tags on the other team, if they can see them. So I'm looking over there trying to see, like, who should I be concerned about? Do I know the players? Do I recognize the tags if I don't recognize, the clans if I don't recognize the players? And I didn't recognize this one, so now I'm thinking, okay, well, what else is going on? Maybe we got 3 guys up here. I'm going to try to get in position to shoot down towards the bridge, because we've got more than enough to handle the one guy who came top. And they definitely went hard. So here I can see we've got Omega and we've got Wick. Obviously, I know those tags and I recognize those names. And they're trying to rush home, which is nice to have an Overwatch for this. And make this an expensive endeavor. I got lucky here early on. They kind of left me alone for a while, longer than I expected them to. Now, of course, they eventually come for me, because the fate of any sniper behemoth, except for the rare cases where they leave you alone and you win the game, the fate of any sniper behemoth is to be rushed down by a Titan or something scary. So now I'm feeling, okay, pretty good. I can shoot down into their home and make this an expensive thing to leave me alone for. I am such a Behemoth fan, but these weapons on the Behemoth are a great combination. This is actually a really well-balanced weapon, in my opinion. I know it feels unbalanced when it takes you out from range, but if you think about it, like a Prismo would be worse. And the decay mechanism that punishes you for longer firing is an interesting addition, because it makes you think, like, you have a laser, but you really have to think about firing it like a shotgun if you really want to maximize your DPS. And you have to make decisions like, do I finish off the guy that I'm shooting at, which is right now I'm making a very questionable decision to keep firing at this. I eventually just leave this Skyrus alone, I remember, because I was like, there's two guys there, they don't need me, let's try to find somebody who I can actually help. Yeah. And at this point, yeah, the Reds have started to figure out that it's probably a good idea not to leave me here. And I'm getting shot at by these Seraphs who do not have the greatest possible time. And this, I see this a lot. I think you've seen, if you've been following, if you've seen the channel, like, in the last probably 10 games, I've had a Seraph, like, fly up and try to take me out from up close, and it just doesn't work. It just isn't a strong enough robot to win that duel. And oh, surprise, I've got a quantum radar. I think the emoji did not expect that. I've got quantum radar on a couple of robots right now. So this is where, as soon as I turn around, this is where I was like, yeah, okay, Behemoth playtime over. There's not a lot I can do about that. That's the game telling you it's time to try a new robot. Don't be mad when it happens, because that's the fate of every Behemoth. If that upsets you too much, and I can get upset, but if that upsets you too much, don't play these robots. And as you can see, like I said, I've got QR on a couple of robots. I put double quantum, is it sensor for the Titans? I put double quantum sensor on the Aether here, because there's so many blinding Mirromets out now. I just, like, needed a little something extra. So I gave up some damage and I gave up some durability in order to see all of the Mirromets. And this was a move kind of like a recent game where I jumped the Luchador to the enemy secondary, where the way the game was going, you had to shake something up, you had to do something different. And whenever you have to do something different, the two great things you can do are take a robot they don't expect and put it in a place they don't anticipate. So I knew this was not going to make my Seraph particularly long-lived. The goal wasn't for the Seraph to, like, live a long... I'm sorry, the Seraph. I knew my Aether wasn't going to live a very long time. The goal wasn't for the Aether to live a long time. It was to force everyone on the red team to get really, really concerned about their top beacon, which completely worked. As you can see, they suddenly developed a concern, and they were not that concerned about the bridge, which let everybody at the bridge advance towards home, red home. I came up here, I thought I had enough robots. Let's just keep dancing over here a little bit. You can make a little bit more chaos. And this worked even better than I expected, because they lost their home dealing with me. So, again, this was just the idea of, if you see you're kind of in a stalemate, because the same thing was happening on that carrier. If you see you're in a stalemate, take a bot they don't expect and put it in a place they don't expect, and then force everyone to adjust their play around it. This is the Nucleon Seraph, which somebody requested. I'm sorry, I'm blinking on the name, but I'll link it in the description box below. Somebody requested Nucleon Seraph, and I feel like I tried it a while back with the futuristic Nucleon. So I put is it Biomechanoid, I want to say is the name of these, the other limited edition Nucleon on it. I really like the Nucleon. In this, I mean, I was not confused about how long that Seraph was going to live. The thing I liked about that Seraph build was, because the Nucleon is really only useful at close range, I built it like a tank, and I put a bunch of durability, I build like a tank a lot of times anyway, but I put repair amps, 2 repair amps, and I think 1 anti-control, like not an immunity mod, just like a regular anti-control, because it doesn't have the durability to justify immunity. Because I knew with this Seraph build, I'm going to need to get up close and personal. As you can imagine, I was feeling pretty good at this point in the game. We finished with just a 5 cap at the end. So I did look through the rosters here, and I saw part of the reason we did so well is they gave us 3 champions to 2 on their side. But in my defense, having 2 champions is one thing, but when your champions are from Omega and Wick, that's a whole other. So, yeah. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think. If you want me to run something in particular, let me know at the bottom. And also, let me know if, your feelings on this No Spin March and where we're at with that. So, thank you for making it to the end. If you're a dog or cat at home alone with YouTube for company, you're a good puppy or kitty, I'm sure your parents are going to give you a treat when they get home. And I will talk to you later.